let's talk about something we all think we know, love. But what if the way we usually think about it, as something you have to earn or trade for, is just completely off? We're going to dig into what it means for love to be truly, genuinely unconditional.
I mean, we've all heard this in some form, right? I'll love you if. It's the language of a deal, a negotiation. It basically turns affection into just another thing to be bought and sold. And yeah, it's super common, but it sets up a relationship based on keeping score.
And that brings us to the big question, the one we're really here to ask. Is that kind of tit-for-tat, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours relationship, is that actually love? Or have we been calling it the wrong thing this whole time?
To get to the bottom of this, we've got to start by reframing the whole concept. Because if love isn't a conditional deal, well then it just can't be a bargain, period.
And this is where we have to get really clear on a key distinction. We tend to throw all our good feelings into one big bucket, but they don't work the same way. Things like trust and even just liking someone, yeah, those are earned. They're based on someone's actions, on whether they're reliable. But love, real love, according to this idea, is totally different. It's a gift. It's given freely, no strings attached, no prerequisites needed.
Okay, so if love isn't something we earn, then what in the world is it? Well, this next idea flips the script completely. It says that love isn't about what you get, it's about what you give. Here's the definition we're working with. Unconditional love is a singular act of giving. Just think about that. It's a one-way flow starting from you and moving outwards with absolutely zero expectation of getting something back. There are no little hooks on the end trying to reel in a prize.
And what this really means is that love isn't just a feeling that hits you when someone does something you like. Nope, it's a choice. It is a conscious, active decision to care for someone, whether they deserve it or not.
Of course, if it were that easy, we'd all be pros at this by now, right? So what's getting in our way? Well, it turns out there are a couple of really powerful forces inside us that tend to mess things up.
Because let's be honest, this is the reality for so many of us. We might want to love freely, but we find ourselves stuck in relationships that feel like a constant back and forth, just filled with expectations and letdowns. So why is that? Why is it so hard?
It really boils down to two major roadblocks. First, there's the fear of being alone, which makes us look for security instead of a real connection. And then there's the big one, the score-keeping ego. You know that little voice in your head that's always calculating, always measuring what you're giving versus what you're getting? That's it.
Does that sound familiar at all? I'm always the one who. That is the voice of the ego, loud and clear. It's the story we tell ourselves where we're the victim, the one who's always being unappreciated. And that story can feel so real, but it's always focused on what we're not getting instead of on what we're giving.
So, how do you know if your ego is running the show? Well, are you keeping a mental tally of who did what? Do you feel constantly overlooked or slighted? Is your giving secretly a strategy to get something back later? If you find yourself nodding along to any of these, it's a pretty good sign that your ego, not your heart, is in the driver's seat.
So, how in the world do we break out of this cycle? How do we quiet down that score-keeping ego? Well, the strategy is actually a little counterintuitive, but it's all about gaining some serious self-awareness. You know, it's really hard to see our own stuff when we're right in the middle of it. So the technique here is to use other people as a mirror. The idea is that the things we notice and have a big reaction to in other people, well, they're often just a reflection of something we have inside ourselves. So here's how you actually do it. Step 1, just notice a behavior in someone else. Maybe you see them being really negative or selfish, and it bugs you. Step 2, and this is the hardest part, you have to humbly ask yourself, okay, where do I do that in my own life? It's about seeing that we're all kind of the same. And then step 3, once you see it in yourself, you can finally choose to let go of that old story you've been telling yourself, the one where you're the unappreciated victim. And once you start letting go of that ego story, something amazing happens. You open yourself up to a whole new world, to the incredible joy that comes from this different way of loving. Which brings us to this beautiful central idea. True love does not keep a ledger. It's not an accountant. It's not tracking debits and credits. The joy, the satisfaction, the whole point is found in the simple act of giving.
And the rewards? They're huge. The joy isn't about getting a pat on the back. It's baked right into the act of giving itself. Your satisfaction comes from living your own values, not waiting for someone else's approval.
And funny enough, when you stop demanding things from people, you actually create the space for them to grow. And for you, you find this incredible sense of peace.
Okay, but we have to be super clear on this one point. This is not about being a doormat or letting people mistreat you. Not at all. Setting healthy boundaries is absolutely essential. The whole key here is learning to tell the difference between a situation that is genuinely toxic and a situation where it's just your score-keeping ego feeling bruised.
So we'll leave you with this final thought to take with you. What can you give today without expecting a single thing in return? It doesn't have to be some grand, heroic act. It could be just listening patiently to someone, offering a kind word, or doing a small favor. What's one thing you can offer freely, just for the pure joy of giving? Thinking about that might just change everything.